Good morning. It is Gratitude Shift Wednesday. It's Wednesday. It is Wednesday, you guys. It is Wednesday. It's Wednesday. Gratitude Shift Wednesday. I'm excited about our conversation this morning. So excited. We are at Wednesday. We are at Wednesday. I'm like, it's Wednesday. Hey, if you're excited to let me know. Let me know. Drop a heart in the chat. If you're excited for today's conversation, you are excited for today's conversation, drop a heart in the chat, you guys. Yes, it is Wednesday. So, yeah, let's just get right into it. Let's take our deep breath, right? Let's get present. Let's take our deep breath. Let's get present. Let's feel our feet on the ground. Yeah, this is our space. No pressure, right? Just our presence as a community, right? Coming together to grow and to learn. Listen, I have a question. Have you ever felt like no matter how hard you tried, right, something always got in the way? No matter how much you try, something always seemed to get in the way, right? How many times have you said, how many times have you said, I'll start when things slow down. I'll start when I get the time. But that moment really never comes, right? Listen, your success isn't about what's in your way, you guys. It is about how you respond to it. Nothing changes until you change how you see the problem. Nothing will ever change until you're willing to change how you see the problem. Listen, for the longest time, one of my biggest obstacles, because I have a lot of challenges, right? But one of my biggest obstacles wasn't external, right? It was me. It was me, right? I told myself when I started my business that like I wasn't a salesperson. I'm not a salesperson. I built my business on referrals. So I was like a therapist. So I was like used to getting referrals and things like that and everything kind of being set up. So when I started my own business, I'm just like, you know what? I ain't a salesperson. I really don't want people to think that I started business for the money, right? And the business just started to struggle. Like it just started to fail over and over and over again. Um, but the truth of the matter was deep down inside, I was afraid to charge what I felt like I was worth, right? So I really avoiding selling because I thought that it might like I was kind of like convincing people or I was trying to like get people to I don't know, see my value. I don't know. But then I realized something powerful, you guys. I got a coach and and through talking about, and I tell you guys about my money story. A lot of times I'm telling y'all about my money story because I know that those blocks came from my environment and things like that. Um, so what I realized was that selling wasn't about taking anything from anybody. It wasn't about selling uh, a service. It wasn't about selling a service or a product. It was truly about serving. It was really about serving people, right? I was helping people really start to believe in themselves again. And to me, once I got that, like it was priceless. So the obstacle of charging my worth wasn't a real obstacle, you guys. It was a fear-based narrative of like how I would see myself, how people would view me, would they buy from me? And once I let go of that story, like everything changed. Everything changed. Okay. So I want you to think about this before we start. What's one obstacle as we go through our session? What's one obstacle that you have allowed you? What's one story that has created an obstacle that you have allowed to hold you back? Right. We're gonna break this down today, and then we're gonna start shifting our mindset because I want to let you know who this session is for. But let me say good morning and welcome back, right? Welcome back to Project Life, you guys, where we turn theory into practice. Okay. So if you you feel like something's always in the way and you get little to no progress, no matter how hard you try, there's always an excuse. There's a lack of time, a lack of resources, a lack of support, a lack of confidence, right? You just feel stuck. Okay. If you often feel overwhelmed by challenges, when a problem arises, you feel stuck, you feel frustrated, or like you really have no control over your outcomes. If you keep putting your goals on hold, you guys, you tell yourself, I'll start when things calm down. I'll start once I get, over the summer, I'll start the first of the year, right? You keep pushing that date back, but somehow it never comes, right? You struggle with self-doubt because deep down inside, you're wondering if you're actually capable of the goal or the desire of the relationship, right? Or of the singleness, right? So you avoid taking action, right? And let obstacles become barriers instead of challenges, right? If you're ready to break those mental blocks that's holding you back, you know that something is inside of you, you guys, but you don't really know how to shift into the mindset to really get that breakthrough. Okay. If this sounds like you, listen, put good morning in chat for me. Good morning. Good morning, Miss Angela. Good morning, Miss Angela. Listen, if this sounds like you, then this session is for you because obstacles will always exist, you guys. They will always exist. But whether they stop you or strengthen you, guess what? Is your choice. Whether they stop you or strengthen you, you guys, is your choice. We are not removing the obstacle. You're going to hear me say this over and over and over again. The obstacle is always going to be present. That's not the problem. All right. Listen, this week we've covered, good morning, Latoya. This week we've uncovered the stories we tell ourselves, right? On Monday. The triggers that activate those stories, right? Good morning, Carrie. All right. But what happens when those triggers turn into real challenges, you guys? That's where today's life lesson comes in. All right. Because obstacles just don't appear out of nowhere. They're often shaped by the stories we believe, right? They're often shaped by the stories we believe and the triggers uh, we react to, right? Many challenges we face today started as just a limiting belief, really just an emotional response that we never fully addressed, all right? And when we become aware of this, we actually stop seeing obstacles as permanent roadblocks, you guys, and start recognizing them as opportunities of growth, right? Today, we'll break down how we see our obstacles, and we'll move through these challenges, you guys, in a way that once felt impossible, right? But now you're going to really learn how to take control of your own progress, right? Obstacles are not the end of your journey, you guys. They are really a test of how badly you want to transform your working. I'm sorry. Obstacles are not the end of our journey, you guys. They are a test of how badly you want the transformation you're working towards. But most people don't realize that many of their obstacles, you guys, are self created. Good morning, Miss Lorraine. Today, we're identifying what truly standing in our way and how to overcome it, you guys. What's truly standing in our way and truly how to. All right. Okay. So today's quote: obstacles are these fruitful things you see when you take your eyes. Oh man, I'm sorry. Obstacles are these frightful things that you see when you take your eyes off the goal. That was Henry Ford. Obstacles are truly these frightful things you see when you take your eye off the goal, you guys. The real problem isn't the obstacle, it's where you're placing your focus, right? When you focus on limitations, you start to feel stuck. But when you focus on solutions, you guys, you take control. All right. So we're going to go to our character, Marcus, that I'm always talking about, right? Y'all know Marcus is not his real name, right? But we're going to go to Marcus. Marcus always wanted a deeper connection in his relationships, you guys. But every time he tried to open up, he felt shut down. He convinced himself that people didn't care about what he had to say. He felt like nobody ever listened to him. He felt like he was only going to create more problems if he told his truth, right? And he would have all these narratives about why he just didn't communicate. Over time, this belief actually became an obstacle for him, you guys. He started he stopped sharing his feelings. He avoided any type of deep conversations, and he stopped communicating his wants, needs, and desires. And he started to build walls. And we talked about the difference between walls and boundaries. He started to build walls instead of connections. And one day he realized the real obstacle wasn't the other people, you guys. It was his fear of being vulnerable, right? It was his fear of being vulnerable. Every time he opened up, he got scared. Every time he went to share his truth, he got scared. He felt exposed, right? And he had these judgments that came up like a man shouldn't do this, and a man should be strong. And he had all of these narratives that when he started to feel vulnerable, all of that came up and he would just retreat. But one day he decided to push through his fears, you guys, and open up. He found that the deeper connections he craved were there all along, you guys. He just was unwilling to embrace them. Working with Marcus was really interesting because he came so, and I talk about this difference between fragile, right, and durable, right. And a lot of men that I work with, they have a very hard core, and they have those, what I call those meta emotions, where they're thinking about their emotions, or they have emotion about their emotions. And Marcus is one of these people that had a lot of narratives about what a man is, what a man should do, what it meant to be emotional. And we had to break through all of those because they had truly become walls to the life he wanted, the relationship he wanted, and the type of professional life he wanted. And if that makes sense, if you understand a Marcus or know a Marcus or see a Marcus in you, I want you to put a 1 in the chat. Because listen, your biggest obstacle isn't always the challenge, you guys. It's how we see it, and how you're in and if you're looking for a way to get through it, we have to really stop making start becoming aware of the stories we tell ourselves, right. Okay, so the O in this framework, it's two forms, right? An obstacle is an external, can be an external real life barrier, okay, or an internal mental block. All right. Today, we're going to tackle them both. All right. So today we're going to tackle them both because an obstacle can truly be an external thing. We know that there has been obstacles placed in our way, physical obstacles that we can't like make an excuse for. But then we have these internal mental blocks too. And I think a lot of times we're pointing at the external, right? These real life barriers, but we're not paying attention to our own mental blocks though, that are also stopping us from moving forward. Mr. Lorraine said he finally tore the wall down that built the protect that he built to protect himself, but that wall always kept him from getting further in life. Right, right. And a lot of us have that, Mr. Lorraine. All right. Carrie said, just imagine if you were able to take all the good from losses and learn from your mistakes while eliminating those feelings and self-doubt and failure. Think of how great you would be, right? Because life is a lesson. And when we learn how, and if I'm understanding you right, Carrie, once we learn how to take the good with the bad, right? And see that as a process of life, and
you said eliminate those feelings, right? But sometimes it's not even about eliminating them. Sometimes it's just about going with the feeling, right? Because I talk about this motivational triad, and it's very important for us to know our brain was designed to keep us safe. The only feeling that I think that we do or we go into, or the only action that we have that we may go into that we don't have a feeling tied to is something called courageousness, right? It's when you're courageous. You just do it. You're not thinking about it. That's the person that like jump in front of a car to steal a kid, right? You're like, what was you thinking? I wasn't, right? So we do have times where we have like these courageous acts where we're so moved in the moment that we're not really thinking about the feeling, or we don't even feel the feeling, or the feeling floods in later on, right? Because that's courageous act. And I think we get courage, right, mixed up with confidence. Now, confidence is I'm going to do this thing over and over again and build a competency, right? And then I become confident. But most people, even in their competencies, you guys, even in their confidence, they have a feeling. And I think that we have robbed ourselves of the idea that's one of the mental blocks that we have. And we have to become self aware of this narrative that we're not supposed to feel. Every person that goes on stage, the biggest artist that you know, guess what? They probably, you know, stomach tore up. You've seen them getting awards and shaking and like, oh my God, I'm shaking, and they're nervous, right? We don't talk about this emotional part of our life, this emotional environment that we live in, you guys. And that's the biggest environment that we live in is an emotional one. Okay. And we have to really learn how to get back in tune with our emotions. I thank you for that comment, Carrie. And I thank you for that, Miss Lorraine, because we really do have to get back in relationship with our emotions and really stop trying to eliminate them, because that can be a narrative. Once I stop feeling this feeling, then I'm going to move forward. Well, I say go with the feeling, go with the fear, go with the vulnerability, because guess what? As you go, the emotion will subside. And that's the secret. We think that it's supposed to subside before we get there. And it's like, no, if it was an aroma on your body, me and Miss Lorraine we talked about this aroma yesterday. If it was an aroma on your body, as you go, the aroma will leave you, right? This feeling, right, will leave as you go. And then, right, all the other stuff will kick in. But sometimes we got to move with our fears, you guys. We have to learn how to move with our fears. All right. So obstacles come in two forms, you guys. They're external real life barriers, and then they're internal, these mental roadblocks, right? Today we're going to tackle both. External obstacles is something like I don't have enough time, right? I don't have enough time. An internal obstacle may be I'm afraid I'll fail, so I don't even start. So I'm saying I don't have enough time because I'm working and I'm busy, and I got the kids and I'm work full time, and mom's sick or whatever that is. But the internal obstacle could be I'm afraid to fail. So I'm really not going to start. I'm not going to start. So guess what? I can use this external, I don't have enough time, as like a crutch or an excuse for me not to move forward. All right. An external obstacle is I don't have the right connections or resources, right? And an internal obstacle to that, you guys, may be I'm not good enough. I don't feel smart enough to do that. Maybe I won't succeed. I've invested so much time into this situation, right? And so now we can say, I don't have the connections or the right resources for this desire that I want, but there may be an internal obstacle that you're not aware of emotionally, mentally, or otherwise. All right. So Miss Lorraine said, right, a courageous spirit is so important to defeat the enemy, right? Of doubt and fear, right? And then Carrie says, so controlling those feelings of self-doubt and failure instead of eliminating them, that makes sense too. Yes. So we have to control them and manage them as we move forward and feel them. And here's the thing is, again, that can become a competency, because in the beginning, when I'm feeling this feeling, it may just feel so overwhelming and so big. But the more I go into manual and I become the driver in the seat, the more I'm training my brain that this is a normal part of the process. So now it's like I feel the fear, but it doesn't stop me. I'm gonna say like a big obstacle for me was getting on in front of the computer and speaking to a camera. Nobody's in front of me. I'm very much used to human interaction. So when I first would come on camera, I was nervous. I like my heart would beat fast, and and then once the camera came on and I started to talk, like it would subside. I can't say that I don't feel nervous every day that I before I come on the camera, and you may see like me fluster, uh, uh, stumble over words, right? But here's the thing: I feel it less, right? I feel it less. Good morning, friends, goes. Good morning, Pep. I don't think we should control our feelings. Okay, I want to hear more about that. And I agree from the aspect that a feeling is not something you can control, right? A feeling is not something we can control, but it is something we can manage, right? It is something that we can definitely manage how we move, and sometimes even being still enough to allow it to move. I always say that feelings are like smoke. Right? This is why we can't control them. I'm interested to know why you said that though, Pep. So feelings are like smoke, right? I think that we think feelings are very concrete, but they're like smoke. If you ever cook fish in your house, you can't just keep that fish smell in the kitchen, right? It gets all through your house. And I think that what makes it so challenging for us when we think about self-awareness and becoming aware of our emotions, you guys, is because we're trying to contain a feeling. And remember, feelings are digested, right? Feelings are digested, thoughts are processed. So when we think about something processed, it's more matter, it's more physical, like step one, step two, step three. Well, feelings don't go like that. Feelings are more like smoke. They seep into other areas. And that's why if we don't address our feelings, you guys, there's something called neuropeptide. Neuropeptide, I'm just learning this, right? We see, so a neuropeptide is a chemical that is released every time we feel, right? And that chemical is actually supposed to metabolize. It's actually supposed to metabolize within 10 minutes, just like we would metabolize food, right? So every time I have a feeling, there's a chemical response in my brain called a neuropeptide that is released. Okay. But if I don't resolve the emotion, if it becomes a traumatic event and I don't resolve this emotion and I'm holding on to this anger and this bitterness and these feelings, guess what? The neuropeptide stays in our body and it gets down in our tissue, right? And we actually start to, and this is what we start talking about. Okay, your neck hurt. How much weight are you carrying? What stress is on your body, right? This is when we start asking these questions because there's actually a chemical that we're not releasing because we're trying to what? Control our emotions. We're trying to what? Not feel that thing. We're trying to what? Wait until this feeling is over. And so now we're containing and holding, and we're not allowing it to metabolize through us, right? And a big reason that we're not is because of the stories we tell ourselves. And again, we really need to understand how are we communicating, what stories are we telling ourselves so we can start to metabolize the neuropeptides that our emotions create. I know I just went so scientific on you guys, but it's just so important that we learn our stories, you guys, and that we start to shift them because those stories really become our obstacles. And most of our obstacles really aren't stopping us, you guys. It's our belief. It's our belief about the obstacle, right? It's our belief that this obstacle is stopping me because we are unstoppable. We are unstoppable. Yeah, I'm telling you, anything, if you think about it, anything you've ever wanted in life, you just told yourself a story to get it. You told yourself the right story that you needed to tell yourself to convince yourself that that was the right decision, even when it was the wrong decision. If it was a story, it don't matter if it was something you purchased. It don't matter if it was a sneaky link. It doesn't matter if it, whatever it was, you told yourself what you needed to tell yourself so that you could do the thing that you wanted to do. And if we started to take that same mentality and we started to apply it in our life, in our everyday life, guess what? we would attain more. But some of the things that we really desire, we really don't have the story that's in alignment with it. We have a story that challenges us, and that's why we don't truly have the thing we desire, because we've allowed this story to happen so many times. And sometimes it's not even our stories, it's stories we've been told about having that thing that triggered so much in us. And then, right, we get this obstacle. All right. Challenges are always going to exist, you guys. But whether we stop, but whether they stop you or strengthen you, but whether they stop you or strengthen you is all up to you, you guys. What this means is that instead of saying I can't because, start saying, how can I? How can I make this happen? Uh how can I start this new class? How can I start having the resources? How can I start to budget my money? How can I start loving again? How can I start forgiving, right? How can I start understanding myself more, right? Versus I can't because, all right? So Pep said, when we say control, I think about my parents whooping me and saying, stop crying. Oh, that is so beautiful. When we say control, I think about my parents whooped me and said, stop crying, or why are you crying? Exactly. That's so beautiful. That's a great analogy, right? And I think that's why we feel like we should control our emotions. In the middle of being whooped, in the middle of your pain, you're crying. And as you're getting lashed, you're saying, your parents is like, now be quiet, stop crying, right? Uh, what you crying for, right? And guess what that does to our fragile minds? Well, maybe I shouldn't be crying, because how many of you then went into the right, right, and you really trying not to cry, and you looking at your legs, and I don't know what y'all got with, but we got with stitcher cords and little, whips from the trees and stuff. So it's like you looking at your legs, and I'm not supposed to feel that. Right. And I then remember my brothers becoming so hard at by the time they was 13, like I could see my granddaddy hitting them. And I mean, just, right. And just this, like, I'm not going to break. I'm not going to cry. Right. And so they just took the licks. And I'm sitting there like, I can't do that. I can't do that. Right. So that's a great analogy, Pep. Thank you for sharing that. All right. So again, challenges will always exist, but whether they stop us or strengthen us is really up to you. Again, we have to change our language from I can't because to how can I make it happen. Imagine if you stopped seeing obstacles as roadblock, you guys, and started seeing them as stepping stones to your next level. How much more would you accomplish? How much more can would you accomplish the moment you stop letting excuses the moment you stop letting excuses win, you guys, you take back control of your future. No more waiting. Your breakthrough starts when? Today. You know, that's my thing. Today, today, that's when we can do it. All right. So listen, one of our members used to always say she didn't have time to work on our goals. I just don't have time to work on my goals, Sheila. I really do need an accountability partner. I just don't have time. But when she tracked her schedule, you guys, we did a schedule tracker on her. Okay, tell me what time you do this at this time and this time. What she realized, you guys, that she spent hours strolling on social media. Once she made a small adjustment, she had the time that she needed. And now, guess what? She's thriving in this second business that she wanted to start that she was telling herself she didn't have time to do. But guess what? Telling herself she didn't have time was serving as a veil, as an obstacle for her that she could kind of tuck under, right? Because she really was scared. She was scared to really, you know, take on this new adventure that she really desired. All right. So research shows that people who reframe their obstacles, you guys, as challenges to solve, people who reframe their obstacles as challenges to solve, right, are significantly more successful than those who see them as barriers. Okay, so drop a heart in the comments if you're ready to move past your obstacles and take action. Miss Lorraine said, "You, how can I start? I love this. I can. How can you start to overcome your obstacles? We can talk about that." Making your roadblocks, your stepping stones. I love this too. Thank you. All right. So let's go to our biblical wisdom. Our biblical wisdom. So Philippians 4:13, you guys. Remember, we're using the Bible verses because the Bible is a book of what? Promises, parables, principles, and patterns, right? It's not just a book about religion. And it is some divine wisdom in here that I feel like, hey, if you don't know the language, insert principle verse here, right? Because listen, it works. It works. And this has nothing to do with, again, you being Christian or not, right? This has everything to do with us being divine beings. And I was listening to this guy and he talked about divinity, and I'm a read it. He was talking about divinity, and we always associate a divinity to religion and spirituality, but he said the root word of divinity, you guys, it just blew my mind. And this is what happens when you start to really move and shift. Divinity is the ability to transcend perceived limitations. That is what divinity means. And we are divine because we have the ability as human beings to, and we're the only species, animals can't do this, right? So we're the only species that can do this, the ability to transcend perceived limitations, right? And guess what a perceived limitation is? Something that's not true, right? Something that's not true. And why is it not true? Because it's something that somebody told you, either your mama, your grandmother, society, right? And so those stories, those mental stories we take on, and as we take on these stories, we start to see ourselves differently, right? And we start seeing what we can achieve differently. But because we are divine beings, you guys, we have the ability to transcend any perceived obstacle. Good morning, Derek. Um, Miss Lorraine said, "Don't befriend your obstacles, but make plans to move past them." Right? Great advice. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So our principal verse, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Right? This is a principle. I can do all things. And we hear people say this a lot. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Right? Now, remember when I'm talking about these, again, because I just need to explain, there is a divinity in us, right? There is a divinity within us all. And because there is this divinity within us all, then this is not the strength that this verse is speaking of can be our strength. We have it, right? So what this means is that you're never facing an obstacle alone, right? Because strength is already within you, right? When you stop looking at challenges as limitations, you start seeing them as growth opportunities, you guys. And then you can step into the power to really tap into your strength, to really tap into this strength that because you can do all things, because you're divine, right? Because you were created in such a phenomenal way, the story, the word that you're telling yourself is what is activating the necessary tools that has already been placed in you to do the thing you need to do, which is why when we talked about earlier, that moving with fear, and some people can just do it instinctively, like jump in front of a car and they like, what they call it, like a Superman gene or whatever, or Superwoman gene, where people just do stuff out of instinct. Why can they do that? Right? Because it's already there. It's not something that we're waiting for, waiting to happen. It's igniting as we're telling ourselves that we can. All right. So this verse is not about some distant power really giving us strength, right? It's about realizing that the strength to overcome your obstacle is already inside of us, you guys. When you believe that challenges are just stepping stones and not roadblocks trying to stop you, I'm telling you, you will step into your power. All right. When this is a real life application. When fear tells you you can't, right? Remind yourself that you already have what it takes to move forward, right? I always tell people, I've heard no so many times and I continue to hear no today, right? But I always remember that their no to me is not a no to me. It's them opting out. It's them opting out of being in community with me in this experience, this desire, and this dream. And I'm okay with that. Okay. But a lot of times what we have done is we have allowed ourselves to believe that I can't when we can. And again, I just want to say your body is there to serve you. Your brain is there to serve, to be of service to you. And it is following your command. And when you're telling your brain I can't, when you're telling your brain I can't do this, I can't do that, I don't know how to communicate, I don't, guess what? Your brain is searching for on your behalf. It is searching for what we call the validating of that, right? So it's looking for the reasons why I can't. Okay. But when you start telling your brain you can, right? You can do all things through Christ who has strengthened me, who has built this body, who has built this beautiful mind, who has placed divinity in me, right? When we start to communicate that, guess what your mind starts to do? It starts to click, click, click. Oh, now we start to see it's like a different road, right? A different road starts to appear. Same situation, but we start to handle it different, you guys. So this verse really reminds us that obstacles are not here to break us. They're here to show us. They're here to show us how strong we already are. The moment you trust the power within you guys, you will start to move differently. And that's the thing. We definitely have to start trusting the power that we already have. And a lot of us just don't trust ourselves. And we have to start getting up. I say that sometimes I send my clients home all the time with little notes. And the little notes is just like, I trust me. Just put a little sticky note on your bathroom mirror and just be like, I trust me. I trust me today. I trust me. I trust me. I trust me. And here's the thing, feel the disbelief. And then, like, start, instead of saying, why don't I trust me? Because I think we even journal like this too. We even journal in a way where we're asking the question in a way that's still not productive. Like, why don't I trust myself? I want y'all to listen to that question. Why don't I trust myself? What do you think that the brain is going to tell me? It's going to tell me every reason why I should not trust me. Well, you shouldn't trust you because you know you lied to your mama or you took that money out of her drawer when you was a little girl, right? Or when you did this or when you did that, right? Yep, I took money out of my mama's drawer. It wasn't my mama's, my auntie, but I call her my mama, right? But when we start to ask ourselves, why should I trust me? How can I learn to start trusting me? Right? These are more, and again, when I start talking about affirmations, it's a way to affirm a new space in how to see the same situation, right? Because we can see a situation from so many different angles, you guys, from so many different angles that the sun is coming out. We can see a situation from so many different angles that we really need to start to ask ourselves questions in a different way. If that makes sense, put a one in the chat. If that makes sense, put a one in the chat for me. All right. And then our promise verse this morning is with men, this is impossible. But with God, all things are possible. With men, this is impossible. But with God, all things are possible. That is Matthew 19 and 26, you guys. What this means is that what looks like an obstacle to you is nothing in comparison to what's possible through faith, perseverance, and action. What looks like an obstacle to you would look like an obstacle to your grandmama, would look like an obstacle to the friend that told you you couldn't do that, would look like an obstacle to that school teacher that told you you weren't going to amount to nothing, would look like an obstacle to all these men, right, who have an opinion about the thing and the life that God gave you, right, is nothing in comparison to the possibility to what's possible through faith, perseverance, and action. Now let's talk about faith, perseverance, and action, right? Faith is what? Believing in the unseen, right? But it's actually, I'm going to believe that this dream is true. I told you about my faith um, I got asked that question. I was sitting in the car. God said, what is Sheila? What is the faith of a mustard seed? And I said, a little bit of faith. And at this time, I'm struggling. I'm about to walk away from my business because, it's just not going well, God, or whatever. Just like lead me in the right direction. I'm having this conversation with God. Me and God talk. And it's like, well, what is the faith of a mustard? I hear this little whisper. I'm like, a little bit of faith, and I'm like thinking, actually, as he said, I'm just like, as this small voice is coming up, I'm thinking, I know, I just need to have a little bit of faith. And right there, I heard, no, the faith of a mustard seed is not a little bit of faith. The faith of a mustard seed, Sheila, is that mustard seed believes it will become the mustard tree. That mustard seed believes it will become the mustard tree. So in my mind, I'm blown away because I'm thinking, wait, so it ain't this little bitty faith I'm supposed to have. It's this fullness in who you created me to be, right? That was my interpretation of that. And I was blown away because for years I had been taught that all you need is a little bit, because a mustard seed is the smallest seed. And I get that. It is the smallest seed. And guess what? Being the smallest seed of all the seeds that's made, it has the belief, the faith that it will become one of the biggest trees that was able to be created, right? And so that that just changed my perspective, right? So what are we believing in, right? What are we believing in? What is our faith in? And remember, we can extend faith in two ways. We can extend faith in the thing that we want, right? In a belief that we want, or we can have doubt, which is still extension of our faith. I have faith right now that this seed gonna hold me up. I'm having faith right now that this internet is gonna hold on for another 10 minutes while I get through this session. You have faith right now that your phone or your TV or your screen is going to stay on and listen to this. You have faith that after we get done, you're going to go in the kitchen and eat, right? We are always extending faith, right? So that's not the thing, right? It's but what do we have faith in? And we have to start becoming aware of the faith that we have in the beliefs that we're telling ourselves and how we extending our faith in that. And if that belief isn't serving the bigness of who I am, then I need to change that. What is perseverance? The ability to persevere, to get through. And you were built to get through. I was working with a client, and he's in a relationship with a woman. I don't think they have been intimate for like a year, you know. And I'm asking him like, "Hey, well, did you talk to her? Did you tell her what your needs are? As a man, are you communicating?" He's like, "Yeah, I just really want to respect her boundaries. I know this, that, and the other." And he's a successful businessman. And I said, so you go to work every day, you go to your huddle meetings, you meet with your meeting, your partners. You have three successful businesses. I'm talking about 7-figure businesses. You got three successful 7-figure businesses. You're meeting with your huddles and your friend. And your partners. You have small teams that you meet with on calls. You're following up. You're communicating all of this, right? Because you understand that you need to tell them how this business functions and all of that. But then you get home to the woman that you love, that you want to build a family with, and then you don't communicate what your needs or your desires are, right? You just expect that she should know. Nowhere else in life do we have this perspective, right? Only in our relationships do we have this thing where we feel like people should know what we think. Our mate should know how I think. They should know how I feel. They should know what I want. They should know what I desire, because we have placed an image on the type of mate we want, but we're not willing to do the work and persevere, right? And persevere the challenges that come with communicating that, the way we would persevere our businesses or our friendships or whatever. Okay. Just wanted to share that story. And then action, right? Action, taking action every day. One of the things that I have is and I would actually ask this too. But one of the things that I have is this affirmation on my phone. Like, it's right on my phone. The first thing I say is I take aligned action every day. Right. So that's not me questioning my faith, right? That is me telling myself that I'm taking this action every day. Because here's the thing, your breakthroughs is on the other side of whatever you believe, right? Your breakthrough is on the other side of your belief. All right. So trust, take action, and watch things shift. All right. Because with men, right, again, back to this promise verse, um, with men, this is impossible, but with God, all things are possible, right? So this verse is about a mindset. It's truly about a mindset. Many of the obstacles that we face seem impossible. They seem impossible, you guys, because of the way we see them, because we're looking at them from our limitations, and that's the man part of us. We're looking at them from our limitations, okay? But when we shift our perspective, right, and trust that solutions exist beyond what we can see right now, right, everything changes. If you ever went through a process, you know this, that you can go in thinking one thing and then come out with a totally different experience. You can go in thinking you're going to watch a game, connect to somebody, and something else happens, right? So things shift when we show up and we take action, you guys, right? And here's the thing, when you hit a roadblock, instead of stopping, ask yourself, what's another way forward? What is another way forward? Instead of seeing challenges as closed doors, you guys, start seeing them as opportunities to become creative, right? To creatively resolve the issue. Okay. Because when you realize that your biggest obstacle is often your own mindset, your own thoughts, your own beliefs, right? You start to unlock the ability to overcome any challenge, you guys. So faith, belief, and action will move you forward. All right. All right. Because God has placed those elements in us, right? So I think it's love. Somebody give me that verse. It's faith, hope, and love, right? And love being the biggest one, right? So these components, I guess I'm trying to say that these components are already in us. They're ready to be activated. You know, I talked about the emotions, and every emotion you feel, there's a peptide released within us, a neuropeptide. That's a chemical release that's released in us. Guess what? What if that same, I don't have proof of this, but I'm saying, what if that same thing was true? So they've studied the brain, and they say, you know what? Every time you feel an emotion, we see this neuropeptide chemical is released that, should be metabolized, but when it's not metabolized, it's stored in your tissue. But what if in our divinity something happens like that? What if every time we feel an emotion, like we can call it like a spiritual peptide, right, is released, right? And it's activating something and doing what it should do, right? But because we're halted, right, then it gets stuck. Now it's not able to do the thing it it was meant to do because we are halting it. Right. I do feel like with movement, you guys, with movement, and that's not always even physical movement. It's in how we talk. It's in what we're thinking about, right? That's our first movement in my self-talk, in my inner dialogue, right? In my communication and how I communicate, right? All of that is movement. I heard this guy say the other day, think about how intelligent you are, that you take a breath in, and all of us have done this. We take a breath in, and as I'm going to talk, the breath that I just took in is being forced out of me. And my mind is putting that in a certain frequency, in a certain, um, in my throat is vibrating at a certain pace to create, and my tongue is moving at a certain way, and my lips are folding in a certain way that I'm not doing that myself to communicate an idea to you. That's powerful, that I'm breathing in, the air that I'm pushing out, I'm vibrating at a certain level, a certain tone, a certain key, my lips and tongue and everything is working together in unique sync to actually create the words that my mind is telling it to create. And you telling me, right, that we weren't created to be great, right? Even if we just tell ourselves that, you guys, but we have to start to become aware of the stories that we tell ourselves. If that makes sense, put a heart in the chat for me. Put a heart in the chat for me. Listen, Philippians 4 and 13. Uh, Philippians 4:13, you already have the strength, really just reminds us that you already have the strength inside of you to overcome your obstacles. And listen, Matthew 19:26, no challenge is bigger than your ability to find a way through it. Listen, no challenge is bigger than your ability to find a way through it. So if you like that, put a one in the chat. Put a one in the chat for me, and let's go to our transformational tools for today. This is our obstacle audit, right? This is really what we take with us every day. Our little small bite-sized recipe to really tie in our conversation. So what I want you to do is write down one obstacle that you believe is stopping you. Just one. What is one obstacle that I believe is stopping me, right? Identify whether this obstacle is external or internal, right? Is this an external obstacle? Is this an internal obstacle, right? And then I want you to reframe it. Reframing it is tell yourself something different, right? Ask yourself, how can I move through this, right? What am I not seeing, right? Right? What am I not seeing? Is there something here that I am not seeing, right? I just want you to reframe that obstacle. All right. And then take one small action towards overcoming it today. Okay. If you have some challenges in doing that, you can always DM me, right? Or you can always join Project Life Growth Membership, where we're having a conversation every Thursday that really breaks down, right, what we talk about in these sessions. And this week is going to be so exciting because we're talking about self awareness. All right. And then if you want to, you can drop an obstacle in the chat, right? And we can have a conversation about it as the day goes on. All right. And then our affirmation for today. Obstacles do not define me. Remember, affirmation, if we don't believe it, then it won't be true. We can say it all day, but if we don't connect what we're saying to our heart space, then yeah, we may not change that. But again, I use affirmations in a different way. I think affirmations are a great way to reconstruct what we say and how we say what we say. Um, how did this guy say dog so he used these four words, and I'm gonna say it tomorrow. So he used these four words, and the same four words just like rearranged them in the senses made like total difference, right? Was totally different. So a lot of times I'm using affirmations just to restructure how we talk, right? Because a lot of us talk from this, I don't want this, I don't want that, I don't like this, I don't like that, not realizing that, but you're still communicating to your brain and you're still focused on the thing you don't want, right? And so for me, I love affirmations because I think it introduces us to a new way of communicating and placing our words in a way that is more in an affirming space. And it's great then if you could become self-aware of, okay, do I believe that? And then start to really ask yourself, what do I need to do to believe this, right? So our affirmation for today is like, obstacles do not define me. Listen, I have the power, the wisdom, and the strength to really move through any challenge that comes my way. All right. And then today's intention, really just setting the tone for the day. Today, I shift my perspective and I take action towards overcoming my obstacles. You guys, I shift my perspective and take action towards overcoming my obstacles. All right. And then we have the challenge, right? Our challenge, this is our bonus challenge, right? For the next 24 hours. You ready? For the next 24 hours, every time you think about an obstacle, replace it with a solution. Every time you see an obstacle, just kind of be like, okay, what could be some ways I can solve that? It don't have to be big stuff, but every time you see an obstacle, external or internal, just kind of play a little game in your mind, like, okay, if I could do that, how would I do it? And see how the mind will start to create pathways for you. Okay. Listen, If you can, go subscribe to the YouTube channel. I do want to ask you guys, you can get on my email list so you can keep up with any updates that we have going on. Make sure you invite a friend, you guys. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers there, and then also in the Facebook group. And then the call to action today, listen, if this session really spoke to you, if it really spoke to you, imagine what's possible when you get when you go deeper, right? When you go deeper inside Project Life. So our growth membership really is there to give you the tools, the accountability, the real life practice, and accountability for your breakthroughs, right? Because we already know that real transformation uh, isn't just about what you know, it's about what you do. It's not about what we know. It's about what we do, you guys. This is Project Life, right? Where we turn theory into practice. It's not about what we know. It's about the releasing, right? Releasing and allowing space for us to actually activate the other part of us that that is stopping us from doing what we want. All right. If this session, you already know, worked for you, if you liked it, if you learned something, right? Drop a fire in the chat for me, right? Let's celebrate our growth. Let's celebrate our growth. And remember, you guys, if you can shape it in your mind, you can have it in your life. I will see you tomorrow. We talking about start creating the life you want. You guys start creating it. Start repeating these old patterns and start creating the life you want. I love you guys. I will see you tomorrow. Till later. Hold on, I had a couple of comments. Miss Lorraine said, a step forward for me looks like believing God's word spoken over me instead of flawed man's um, manipulating my words. I can't see all of it. All right. My brother put fire in the chat, Miss Lorraine. Thank you, Derek. All right. Thank you guys for the comment and engagement. I truly appreciate that. Again, I will see you tomorrow. I'll come back in the comments later on. And you guys have an awesome rest of your day. Till later.